Bosh, here we go, and welcome everybody to an episode of the Hotspur Huddle. As you can see, there is no Holly with us tonight. She has got a better offer again, apparently. So it is myself and the main man, the myth, the legend, the Dwight York to my Andy Cole, the Dimitar Berbatov to my Robbie Keane, the Crouch to my Defoe, all of that. Nelson, how are you, my man?
I'm good. I can't lie, those comparisons you made, I'm actually happy with that. I'll take a York, Crouchy, and yeah, I'm actually happy with that. But yeah, it's good to be back. Obviously, missing Holly, and obviously we've enjoyed our summers. But look, we're in the thick of it in the summer, and we're here to just enjoy ourselves. So I'm back to talk all things football.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We have got a wicked show lined up for you tonight, people, because we have got our Barclaysman 11s, and I'm sure there is some transfers and some other bits and pieces that we will get our teeth into. My mum is in the chat as well. Evening. Always in. And as always, the show is. So Nelson, let's get straight into it. Our Barclaysman 11, and we're going to start with. We're going to go a little bit between my team and your team. So if anybody doesn't know, the Barclaysman trend was
Right.
something that went round on Twitter. I want to say it was last October international break.
Yeah.
Somebody got a little bit bored and just started a trend of OG players that played in the Premier League, hence the term Barclaysman. So we're going to start with my goalkeeper, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, that is Jussi Jaskalainen. What can I say, Nels? An absolute stalwart in
Yeah.
goal,
Yeah.
for Bolton in particular, kind of where he made his name, and then left Bolton, and reunited himself with the man that brought him to England in Big Sam, at West Ham, and spent a little bit of time actually at Upton Park as it was then. But I don't think you can kind of look past him as a true Barclaysman kind of goalkeeper. What do you think on that one? You happy with that?
I'm happy with that, and I'm actually glad you clarified or defined for people who aren't sure what Barclaysman means, because it's not your type of OG player. It's more of like street. It's OG player, but also like streets won't ever forget that kind of
Yes.
player. So I think UC is a great shout to start because the Premier League has had a lot of top goalkeepers, but I think for him, the fact that he played for Bolton for the majority of his career, it wasn't a major club, but Big Sam put him there, and yeah, I think it's a good start. Good start, man.
Yeah, Mr. Reliable in between the sticks. But Nels, who have you gone for with your choice?
I've gone for someone. I've gone for a rogue choice, but I've gone for Ali Al Habsi. For me,
Okay.
like he is. I was thinking of Aurelio Gomez. I actually was, but seeing as I'm wearing the Watford kit as well today, but I think Ali Al Habsi. I think he was again for Wigan. Like people know him for his time at Wigan. Obviously, he spent some time at West Brom as well, but that was kind of later down his career. The fact that he won the FA Cup with Wigan, that major shock, defeat of Manchester City in the final. I think he goes down as a Wigan kind of like Barclaysman legend. So for me, he was like very solid between the sticks. Obviously, kind of your traditional kind of hoof it keeper, good shot stopper. Was okay with penalty saving, but I think he was, when you think about Wigan and what they represented in the Premier League. For
Mm-hmm.
me, he's one of the faces that I remember most. A lot, so that's why I've got. That's who I've gone with. Ali Al Habsi. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not a bad shout. I reckon I'm taking this one with Big UC though.
That's
I
okay.
reckon. I reckon. I can put forward a stronger case for pure Barclaysman with UC Askelainen. Guys, let us know in the chat as well if we are not hitting it with a Barclaysman, or give us some other suggestions about who you might potentially put in the positions that myself and Nelson have got. There are lots of you watching, so please get yourselves in the chat, get it popping off with some suggestions for Barclays men. Right, on to right back. And I've gone for this legend here. This man cost £60,000, 60 grand of the Queen's at the time's finest. Seamus Coleman. What can you say about him? Still doing it in the Prem, still at Everton, captain, fantastic, proper like sort of one club man. I think Mr. Reliable. I think you know what you're going to get out of Seamus Coleman, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think in terms of right backs, I don't think they come much better in terms of a Barclaysman than Seamus Coleman. Are you
That's
happy with that, Nels?
No, that's a great shout. I can't lie. I think you might beat me in this right back position because I've kind of gone rogue with my right back. But Seamus Coleman is an absolute legend. The fact that he's still playing today, and shout out to my girl and her family. They're majority Evertonian, so I know they'd be happy with this choice that you made. So
Yeah,
good
yeah.
one.
Did you go for Seamus,
I
or have you gone
didn't.
for someone else?
I've gone for someone else. I've gone for Lucas Neal. For
Oh,
me, this is an again captain for Blackburn Rovers. Again, similar to what I did with Wigan and Ali Al Habsi. If you think about the Barclays Premier League, Blackburn was at the forefront of the Premier League. Had some stints there where they were, challenging for kind of like the top six sort of thing. But Lucas Neal for me was a stalwart in defence, and I think he's from New Zealand. I might be incorrect, but the
yeah.
fact that he was also someone that wasn't from your top nation but still putting really good performances for me at right back. For me, when I think about that Blackburn side, he is one of the few people that come to mind, like Two Guy and Benny McCarthy himself. And then we've also got someone else that I don't want to mention because I think that is, for later. But for me, Lucas Neal, stalwart for Blackburn. I think also went to West Ham as well. So spent
Yes.
and had a stint at West Ham. So for me, he's been at the forefront of the prime Barclays era, and I've gone for him for my right back.
I still think I've clinched it though with Seamus. I think I'm winning this 2-0,
Oh,
but I need
oh,
I
oh, you
need I
did it.
need an independent person in the chat to let us know who's winning here. So please, somebody in the chat, let us know who you think is winning currently. I think it's me. Nelson will no doubt say himself as well. But moving on to centre backs, I've got two pure Barkley. I don't think anybody's going to argue with these two. The first one is this man, Phil Jagielka. Um, Came to light at Sheffield United, and then made his big move to Everton. Was there for a long, long time. Scored an absolute worldie in a Merseyside derby as well. I still remember that game. I still remember a mutual friend of ours, Nelson, going absolutely bonkers when he's rattled that one in the top corner.
Yeah,
So yeah, my first pick at centre half is Big Jags. Big Jags. I'm happy with
that's
that.
good. Big Jags is good. Are you trying to do a whole Everton back line here? What are we doing?
To be fair, you'll find out. You'll find out. But
Okay,
it's
okay,
yeah. I think like when I think of like Barclays Premier League, I think
yeah,
when I know Everton have struggled in the last sort of 5 years or so, sort of battling relegation. But to think they were challenging for European places, like they broke that big four, top four kind of stronghold in the Premier League at one point. I know it obviously didn't go to plan, but for them. But I just when I think of like pure Barclays, I think of like Everton being that sort of
mm,
fifth to seventh place team, and
yeah.
obviously Spurs were in and around that bracket as well at the time, along with Aston Villa. I know Villa have kind of had a bit of a resurgence recently, but yeah, it just kind of felt like it was us, Everton, Villa, that were the ones that were going to kind of break into the top four. But who have you gone for next centre back? Or your first centre
Um,
back, should I say?
my first centre back is actually a teammate of Phil Jagielka's, and I've gone for Distin.
Oh,
Like Sylvain Distin for me. Look at him, like just bowler, like strong, and just I think he was on a hard hitter in defence. And like I said, and I'm sorry, like you said about the fact that Everton were on the rise and trying to break that kind of top four mold. Those were the two in defence that I mainly thought of, as well as sorry, not Phil Jackett, Seamus Coleman as well. I think Everton in defence those years, I think that is a side you can't look past in defence. I think during the prime Barclays, they were fantastic, and what Martinez did and Moyes did, like just to get Everton backing up and running, I think has been fantastic. So for me, I think I don't really have much to say on this. I just think for the way he just kind of played like an old school centre back. Yeah, for me that was my first centre back that I went for.
do you know what? That is a cracking choice. You know what? I might let you have that one, Nels, because
Ah,
Sylvain Distant was an underrated centre half. Let me
yeah,
tell you, and I think the term kind of like Rolls Royce springs to mind when I think of Sylvain Distin, like big, strong, powerful, quick, as well. And I think he was still playing in the Premier League at sort of like 38 at
Yeah.
centre back and still relatively quick. I think he was one of Eddie Howe's first signings at Bournemouth when they come up from the
Right.
Championship
Yeah.
into the Prem. So yeah, I'll let you have Sylvain Distin, and that is because I've got an absolute prime, pure Barclaysman centre half. This man here, the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Shawcross. I don't think you can have a Barclaysman team without this man, Ryan Shawcross. Pure head it, kick it, centre half, anything in the box, it's his. I'm just a bit worried though with my team because there's not much pace at centre half. I've gone for two prime, pure like head it, kick it centre backs, which is not even a feature of how I would want my team to play. So we are properly playing it up to the big man, and dealing off flick-ons and knock-ons here. But I think we'd go great at set pieces because I've got two absolute meatheads at centre
Yeah.
back.
No, that's really good. I mean, I'm kind of bitter towards him simply because of that one tackle he made towards Aaron Ramsey. But
Yeah,
obviously, that was obviously unintentional. I understand that, but as a fan, when those things kind of happen, you always remember it. But no, I agree. Like you're for you as a coach and for you to go for those two centre backs is hilarious. So no, it's a good pick. It was a very good start. I think a very good start from you.
yeah. And who's your next centre back, Nels?
My one, I've gone all the way to Tyneside, and I've gone for Colaccini. I think for me, what he was able to do as Newcastle captain, he didn't start off very well in his Newcastle career. And a lot of Newcastle fans, in my opinion, I think I've spoken to Newcastle fans and they love him, but obviously they had to get to love him. It wasn't, all straightforward when he first came on. And the fact that he went down with them and also came back up, I think is another sign of him, his loyalty to Newcastle. And he was one of a fan favorite. So again, kind of, with that, I thought you'd bring a bit of Argentinian flair to the defense, but he is a similar to like a Ryan Shaw, just kind of hoof it, no nonsense. Also, very hard hitter. I liked his tackles. Like for me, I was worried for any of the players kind of going up against Colaccini because I think he was a hard hitter. But I've kind of gone for him and his iconic hair, that curly hair, you can't miss it. So for me,
True.
that might get in if I'm trying to run past him and his hair's in my face, I'd be annoyed. So, like, I've gone for Colaccini. That's my second centre back. That's my second one.
I don't know who's taken that one because I'm going to say Shawcross because I think he would balance off Distin really well because Distan's got the sort of flair and can bring the ball out from the back, and Shawcross will just head and kick anyone and everything
I
in the
see.
box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've watched Colaccini for Newcastle a couple of times, and he was probably up there one of the worst centre backs I think I've ever come across. So yeah, I'm a bit wild with that one. On to our next player, Nelson, and I believe this is a player that we have both put in our teams.
Yeah.
We mentioned Seamus Coleman earlier, but you can't have Coleman without this man, Leighton
No,
Baines. They
right.
go together like salt and pepper, right?
They are.
Fish and chips. It's
Yeah.
Coleman and Baines, do you know?
It's I think, yeah, I think anybody that's trying to create a Barclaysman draft or even just have a team of Barclaysman players, he is non-negotiable. You have to have him in your side as a left back. Free kicks, crosses, overlapping runs. He had it all, and I love the brother. I think he's a great. People will remember, just sitting down. 10 o'clock in the evening, match of the day, expecting a Leighton Baines free kick or just some whippage into the box for his attackers. So I think we've done very good there to pick him. What about you? What are your thoughts on him? What?
Yeah, I mean, it's just Leighton Baines, isn't it? I think put it this way, right? Leighton Baines could walk, so Luke Shaw could run, and that is and obviously his failed kind of move to Man United, especially when Moyes went there and was linked to Man United for ages and ages, and that move didn't happen. You always felt like he deserved that type of move, and I think had he gone to Man United, I think he would have been England's number one left back for a small period of time at least. I think he was that good, like you mentioned, those set pieces, the overlapping runs, the delivery that he was able to put in. And I think as well, very good defensively. Like I don't recall many wingers like skinning him on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
So for me, yeah, Leighton Baines, like you said, Nelson, if you got a Barclaysman team, you got to get Leighton Baines in there, and he's probably been enjoying the Oasis gigs as well, just based off that that haircut at the moment. Either that or that picture's just he's just seen the price of the tickets for the Oasis gigs that have been happening up and down the country. Moving on to our next player, Nelson. Who is this man?
Ah, for me, Johan Kabay is a baller. I enjoyed watching him play. His prime years in the Premier League were at Newcastle. Um, that side under Alan Pardrew, with Demba Ba, Papi Cisse, like he was the orchestrator. He set the tempo for Newcastle, and they were able to challenge for top four because of him. Whether it was free kicks, whether it was crosses, whether it was just kind of linking play. For me, he had it all. He was so underrated, so underrated. And that Newcastle side in particular, for me, is one of my favorite kind of like non-top six sides that I had the pleasure of watching. So I had to put someone from that side in there, and I think he was the one that probably wouldn't get your normal shout out. So I wanted to put him in there as prime Barclaysman. So that's who I've gone for.
You wanted to give him his flowers. Fair
Yeah.
play. Fair play. I've gone for somebody who did used to play for Newcastle, but also made his name elsewhere, and that is this man, Kevin Nolan. I feel like he's similar to Baines in the sense that, and Coleman in the sense of if you're doing a Barclays, if you feel like if you think back to Barclays Premier League, Barclays era Premier League, Kevin Nolan, like he just screams it. Like I feel
Yeah.
like you know, his runs from deep, all the kind of industry in the midfield. I think what I liked about Nolan is he sort of reinvented himself as well. Like when he came into the Premier League at Bolton, he was a lot deeper, and then as he got older, he started to move further up the pitch a little bit more and played kind of as a second striker, number 10, chipped in with loads of goals and assists. So yeah, I need a goal scoring midfielder in my Barclaysman 11, and I feel like he is the man that is going to do it for me. So
Nice.
I've gone Kevin Nolan, but I do like the shout of Kabay. I also feel like longevity might swing it Nolan's way on that one
It's
as
true. He
well.
did. It's a good point. He did have a lot of longevity, and I think a good point that you mentioned is that you don't see very further up as they get older. It's
Mm.
normally a guy that kind of goes further back in position in his career. So no, that's a good shout. It's a good shout. I think midfield, because me and you like midfield, so this is going to be an interesting battle to see who we've gone from in midfield.
Yeah, Nelson, you've teed me up quite nicely there. Who is your next midfielder?
I've gone for this legend. Like, don't get me wrong, like people will have their say about Jimmy Bullard, but I actually think on a good day, Jimmy Bullard is a good centre midfielder in the Barclays Premier League. Has a wonder of a foot in terms of strike. And look, you don't have to remember like, all those soccer AM goals for me are better than probably the career goals that he scored, for Hull City and so on and so on. For me, I think if in the midfield, I would put him in a 6. Like
Ooh.
people wouldn't put him there because they think he's kind of box to box because he can make those kind of late runs. But for me, I think he has the quality to ping. I think he just looks like he's high all the time. So the way I see him, the way I see him is the fact that for me he could buzz around the pitch and just make those crunching. He's not afraid of a crunching tackle, and I
Mm-hmm.
think for me he could set the tempo at a number 6. Look, I was gonna go for Lee Cattermole as a prime Barclaysman as a 6
Oh.
because Lee Cattermole was in my head as well. But the way Jimmy Bullard can just ping and he can distribute, I think that's what separate between him and Cattermole. Cattermole's more like your hard kind of like nails kind of guy, but then Jimmy has an element of the hard as nails, but then can still pass the ball and kind of move it about. So I've gone for him, and I like it. Anyone can battle me on this, but I actually like my choice for Jimmy Bullard.
Okay, Nelson, I've seen Jimmy Bullard. I'm going to raise you this man because you spoke about hard as nails.
Yeah.
This guy right here, Papa Bouba Diop, nicknamed the Wardrobe. Need I say more? Need I say more? His stint at Fulham, he was remarkable. And then when he moved to Portsmouth as well under Harry, Again, he was just absolutely brilliant. I think he would probably be a very good like defensive midfield player now. I don't think he would be a single six. I think you'd have to have someone next to him, maybe a Kabay, maybe a Bullard. But if you want somebody with a bit of industry in the midfield to win the ball back, give it to those that can play, but can also mix it and play himself, I think Papa Bouba Diop is that guy. And if I look to like now, um, he's probably similar in mould to Yves Basuma, but I feel like perhaps Bouba Diop is better in the sense that Basuma makes a lot of mistakes on the ball, because I think Bouba Diop was a lot safer, like in possession. He'd never really
Yeah.
overcomplicated it. Whereas, with Biss, it's like a loose touch or like a loose pass, and he sometimes loses concentration. I never felt that with the wardrobe and Big Papa Bouba Diop. So he got my vote in there as my industrial ball winning
Yeah.
number 6 or defensive midfield player in there.
That's good, man. I was gonna say, have you gone similar to a 4-3-3 like me?
I
Or
have gone
okay,
4-3-3. I have gone
cool,
4-3-3.
cool.
The next player, Nelson, talk to me.
Steady, Mr. Consistent, steady. If you need consistency, for me, this guy was Mr. Consistent for Fulham. We spoke about Papa Bouba Diop, so the fact that I remembered that I put Steed Malbranc in my midfield just goes to show that Fulham team did have a few ballers in there with Lewis Barmorte, and like it was a very underrated team. I've just gone for Steed Malbranc for his consistency. For me, I think he predominantly played on the right.
Yeah,
So for me, I would put him more of an attacking midfielder in my 4-3-3. But for me, I think he has underrated quality, and I think he's just everywhere. He's everywhere. And I might be wrong in saying that he did have a stint with your lot.
he
So
did. He
so
did.
you would know more than I do as for Steed Malbranc. But for me, I think just because of his consistency, like if you're looking at of 7 out of 10 performances, for me in the Premier League in the prime Barclays, this was the guy that I saw every day, match a day. I was like, this guy's playing really well. Like, never seems to put a foot wrong. So, and versatile as well in terms of positioning. Can play it on the left, can play in the middle as well. So I've gone for Steed Malbranc.
That is a great shout. That is a great shout. I don't know who's won the midfield battle here, Nels. This one is tricky. So we may have to go to the comments. So people in the comments need to let us know who's won that midfield battle, or whether it's kind of split. But just going on to Steve Malbranc, yeah, came to Spurs from Fulham. Predominantly played out on the left because we had some geezer called Aaron Lennon on the right. So yeah, Steve was an interesting player, up and down, a kind of a workhorse sort of wide player, and I think he kind of balanced off our midfield fairly well because you had Lennon, who was the absolute whippet, and then Steed would always like tuck in just to potentially make up the extra player in midfield sometimes. But yeah, it's a good shout. It's a good shout for Steve Malbranc. Didn't always get the flowers and the plaudits he deserved, I think. But yeah, I like where you're going with that one. And I think my dad does as well, to be fair.
Steve, absolutely.
But I've seen your Steve Malbranc, and I raise you Sully Montari, by the
Ghana
way.
boy.
Oh, mate, guy was an absolute baller. Yeah, that Pompey team, is just prime Barclays. Like, the names that were in that team, you had like even Lasana Diarra, John Utaka, Kanu. They had Crouch and Defoe up front at one point. Glenn Johnson at right back, who I think is also potentially someone we missed out on our right backs. Nels, to be fair, Glenn Johnson. But no, Sully Montari. And if you don't know anything about Sully Montari, the one thing that you will remember is his goal against Aston Villa at Villa Park, where he gets the ball, nutmegs somebody, and Trevellas it. So he uses the outside of his left foot and beats, I believe, probably the best third choice goalkeeper in Scott Carson, who was in goal that day. But that was an unbelievable goal, and I think Montari also scored another goal in that game, which was an absolute weldy. Whipped it, bent it into the far corner. Again, Carson had no chance. But the ability this guy had, put it this way, he went from Portsmouth to AC Milan.
Yeah.
Portsmouth, to AC Milan. Not many people make that jump. So yeah, Sully Montari gets my third midfield
Wow.
slot.
We've done very well in midfield, I would like to point out. Like, the only weakness that I could see is my Bullard against a Papa Buba Diop. But apart from that, I think we've done really well in midfield.
Yeah, I also think it would be interesting if because we've gone with Nolan up against Kabay,
Yeah.
different profile of midfielder. Like Nolan's the goal scorer midfielder, whereas I know what you're trying to do with your midfield, but I don't think Steed is your goal scoring midfielder, unfortunately. So
It could be that I swap Kabay and Malbronk, who knows? Because Kabay has been capable of scoring 10 Premier League goals from midfield.
yeah,
But
yeah,
no,
potentially
you raise a good point. But I'm very happy with that. That is people that's prime Barclays, man. That is prime.
Prime Barclaysman. Right, on to our front threes, Nels. Talk to me about this guy.
Oh, JJ. Oh my gosh. The only guy in Premier League history to have a nickname like that and just run with it. Like, you didn't even have to call him a coach. It was just, what's JJ doing? Like, what did JJ do? Like, this is the guy. We all know about him like before he joined Bolton and playing at PSG and stuff, but it was here where for me he just shined. Like, Big Sam, you wouldn't think, the profile of Big Sam's teams aren't players normally with flair. So for him to join a Big Sam team and just bring that Nigerian flair that he did week in, week out, yeah, that Bolton side was a problem. And he was at the forefront of it. And I know as a fan just how much Bolton really made us suffer and made big teams suffer, like, at the Reebok Stadium with their performances and their shock defeats. It was a joy to watch. Like, for me, I had needed somebody in my team that had the flair. And so good, yes, that they named him twice. So for me, JJ is my star player in my squad. I've gone for someone with flair, can create something out of nothing, can use both feet, can link up from defense to midfield to attack. For me, has a lot, and he's just so underrated. And again, I think I've noticed the theme that we're doing here about our prime Barclaysman is giving kind of players like JJ his flowers for the impact that he had in the Premier League. So that's what I wanted to do for JJ. So that is I've gone for he's my right winger on my team. He's my right winger, but can play essentially right or left. Or I could
Yeah,
even swap him for Steed Malbronk, and Steed could go up on the wing for me, and JJ could be
yeah,
my attacking, flary midfielder.
yeah.
I've got the versatility, Wes. I've got it.
Yes.
Tell me your thoughts on JJ.
Listen, even put it this way, when I saw the midfield lineup for Baller League and it was Moussa Dembele, Ravel Morrison, JJ Okocha, Ballers League was built for them three players alone. But honestly, JJ Okocha, as my dad said, so good they named him twice. Used to give defenders nightmares because you didn't know which way he was going to go. You think of the skills, the tricks, especially in games, obviously, unfortunately for you, Nelson, against Arsenal.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier as well, that Bolton team was a problem. Like they had Okocha, Djorkaeff, a young Kevin Nolan coming through, Stelios Yiannakopoulos as well, and big Kevin Davis just
Yeah.
up top, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But no, JJ, I think deserves to go in there for sure. I see what you're doing, but for me, longevity, I don't think he was in the Premier League long enough
I
for
swear it
me.
was like
But
3 years, 4 years.
yeah, but is that like longevity when we've got like Coleman and Baines who are in there for like time and Kev Nolan
Okay.
in there for time? Do you know what I
You could.
mean?
That's a good point. I think longevity is a good argument to make for picking your players. But for me, I just think of you go home, match of the day. It's the prime Barclays era. Who do you want to see? For me, JJ screams that, and that's why when I hit another guy up top, you're gonna. Do you know what? I'll let you have your go on. Who's your winger that you've gone for?
The man I think that literally this player associates Barclaysman. Morton, Gamst, Pedersen. The the hammer of a left peg was ridiculous. And he came as a real unknown. Like nobody had ever heard of him. Nobody knew what he was about. Nobody knew what he could do. But he was, for me, a brilliant wide player in the sense of he didn't mess about. He'd just get the ball, and more often than not, clip it into the box for the two strikers at Blackburn
Yeah.
to feed off of. But I think as well there is obviously a little bit more to him than that. Like I liked his work rate. Would always do a shift for the team, and I like the fact as well that he could. And I think towards the back end of his time in the Premier League, he switched from right to left, or left to right, sorry,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
did really really well with that transition because I think it was just at a time where wingers started playing inverted, like on the opposite side to their strong foot. So we were just trying to work out what types of wide players we were going to get, whether we were going to get more tricky players, whether we were going to get more number 10s, whether we would get the more like industrial type wingers. So yeah, I think he just typifies Barclays' era in a nutshell for me. But I think you've beaten me with JJ Okocha, I have to
Yeah.
say.
Like, I think MGP is a fantastic shout, and he was one of the first people that was on my team sheet. However, I wanted to, like, even though we've gone for Leighton Baines, that was a similar position we've gone for. I just wanted to show that there was a lot more to obviously Okocha and Gams Pedersen. There's a lot of, especially in the forward line, there's a lot of prime Barclaysmen that you could have gone for. So I think that's a great shout. That's a great shout.
Yeah, and he was the first player I had down on my list
Yeah.
and on my team sheet.
See, yeah, that's a good choice, man. Good choice.
Who have you gone for on the opposite side, Nels?
On the opposite side, I've gone
Or is
for,
this your number 9?
this is more my number 9. Yeah, this is more my
Okay.
number 9. Look, this guy, we spoke about longevity, but for to see this for one season was an absolute joke. And if people can't hear me properly, Michu was a problem. I think for him to come from, I can't remember what team it was, but it was from La Liga. And he came in, and I think a lot of people saw his player profile and thought, how would he suit in the Premier League? Didn't have a lot of pace, but what he had a lack of pace, he made up for, I think, in IQ and his finishing. I think the way he was able to kind of peel off defenders and score kind of long range bangers from about 25 yards to then kind of poach in front of goal and know when to pull off of a defender and like have really good tap ins. That one season, I know Swansea City fans will not forget Michu for that one season. And had he had, again, I think the only thing that goes against him is his longevity, because the second season it didn't go really well, and then I think after that he got sold. So it's quick how it can turn around when things aren't really going your way or when you're out of favour at a club. But that one year that I think he scored, I think it was 19 or 20 league goals. And I think that was the year that Swansea also won the Carling Cup. That was called back then the Carling Cup. So he was a major, and that was their first, I think, major trophy. So I think, yeah, you got to, when you think of prime Barclaysman, for me, forwards, Michu is the guy that he was. You said MGP was your first name on the sheet. Michu was my first name on my team sheet. I think for me, he was fantastic. And as an Arsenal fan, he did score a couple goals against us. I didn't like it, but again, like, I will just remember that celebration
Yeah.
was very, very iconic. So that's who I've gone for as my number 9. That's who I've gone for.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think that is it. If we had like a team of one season wonders, I'd have Michu in there literally for that
Yeah.
season. Yeah, cracking player on his day. But yeah, I just think the longevity side of it didn't quite do it for me in terms of when I was thinking about who I was going to pick as my number 9. So that's why he didn't get my shout. But underrated player, I think, for that kind of season, and I
Yeah.
think he's definitely one that the streets will not forget.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is my left winger. This is my left winger, Nico Crancher. Just again, I think technically one of the best players I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah.
he's a joke of a footballer. I remember very, very fondly around this time, actually went to White Hart Lane, and Tottenham were doing a open training session. I know it was around this time because it was school holidays, and Nico Crancher was the best player there. And I'm talking like ball striking, bins, like every single time. And I turned to my dad and went, "Are you seeing this?" And my dad's like, yeah, he's on it. I went, Dad, he can't even get in the team. But he was a joke, like an actual joke. And you're going, how on earth can this guy not get in our team? Like the standard that we had, I think at that point was that good. Obviously, we had Lennon on one side, Bale on the other, which is a bit unfortunate for Nico. But honestly, what a technically gifted footballer. Um, Predominantly played off that left-hand side. I know for Portsmouth, when Harry bought him the first time, Harry moves to Tottenham. Lo and behold, Nico Cranchaw rocks up not long after. Played off the left foot for Spurs for quite a bit. Even had a couple of stints in centre mid when we were ridiculously short as well. But just technically like a joke of a footballer. And I think obviously Harry had him on loan at QPR as well. But honestly, Nico Cranchaw, baller.
I agree. Absolute baller. And whatever foot you wanted him to do it, he could left, right, bang. Like that was how good he was. And for me, I think he would have enjoyed his Premier League career. But do you get the vibe that if he had, when you think of players that could have pushed themselves and they could have been like an elite top level winger, was he somebody that you thought, how has he not got maybe a move to like a bigger club, or do you think it was the right setting for him?
Think I think Spurs was probably his limit at that time. But I think I look at the way the game's gone now. Obviously, a lot more wingers coming inside of the pitch,
Yeah,
arriving into pockets of space. That's his game, and I think he'd actually do really well now because he wasn't the quickest, but quick upstairs is the phrase. So really quick with his footballing brain, his footballing IQ, and his intelligence was fantastic. So I think he would do really well now, either off that left hand side coming in or playing as a 10. I think
yeah,
he'd be brilliant now, or even sort of like 10 years ago, which makes me sound really old at this point. But when like a lot more teams were playing with tens playing out wide or an actual number 10. So yeah, I think Nico would have done better had he come into the Premier League slightly later, not too
yeah.
much later, but just slightly later. But honestly, what a player! What a player!
That-
And do you know what the funny thing is as well? That top that he's wearing actually, like, if somebody held up that top, or I saw a picture of just that top, I'd
yeah,
I'd go Nico Crunch and go. Who does it remind you of? I'd say Nico Cruncher all day long, all day long.
that's a
Um,
great shout, man.
who's your next player, Nels?
So I've gotten my last position left wing, and I thought prime Barclays men, and obviously this is probably the such as Leighton Baines as well. Like this player had longevity. Chris Brunt for me is a stalwart Premier League legend. For me, he was like I'm trying to think of it, like an underrated. So you had Gareth Barry, who we all respected and loved, but for me, he was just below like a Gareth Barry. Like he could have, he never really got a move to that, maybe kind of out of top six kind of side. That was kind of like playing for mid table. But I think for West Brom, he's a legend there at the club. And throughout West Bromwich's years in the Premier League, when I think of West Brom, like same what you just said about Nico Crenshaw, when you put a shirt up of West Brom in their prime Barclays, who do you think of? And for me, it's him. Has a great strike of a left foot. Like he can score bangers, free kicks, long range strikes. Wasn't the quickest, but was deceptively quicker than what most people thought he would be. And I really respected his game, and I think he was a great professional as well. Not many people kind
Mhm.
of say that about players. He was a great professional. So for me, to kind of cap off my side and round it off, I've put him on the left. So I've got Mitra up top, and then JJ. Sorry, I've got him on the right. Actually, I'm going inverted. I've got JJ on the left, him on the right, because I want to see if he can explore a bit of a cut, and he's more used on the left. So I thought, let me stick him on the right. But and then Mitra up top. So that's my front three, Wes, to kind of round it off. But I'm very happy with my squad, and yeah, I think that's an okay choice with Chris Brunt.
Yeah, I have to profess, I had a look at your team whilst trying to get my head round hosting duties
Yeah,
last night, and I saw this picture and I saw this man's face, and I went, "That is a very good shout, like a very very good shout, like a bit rogue, but
Yeah.
I am fully on board with it because I understand that line of thinking. And like you say, steady, great pro. Like he's not one, like you said, not necessarily quick, but I guarantee you in a bleep test, he's hitting like high numbers. He's just one of them, and I think he's a player that if you're a new signing going into a club, he's almost one that you have to impress because of the standards he's set at that club.
Yeah.
Especially at a club like West Brom as well, who did have a few years obviously in the Prem. I know they dipped in and out, but that time for me when they were, I wouldn't say Premier League regulars, but they didn't have just the one season in the Prem. I think he was quite key to
Hmm.
that, and I think he's one that is great around the dressing room as well, Chris Brunt. So yeah, that is a solid choice. I don't know who's won the front three
Oh,
as
who
of
have you gone
yet,
for?
but to round off my front three, I've picked this geezer. I've picked this geezer. Come on, come on. Barclaysman, Nels. Why have you not gone for
that
big
is
Emil
that
up
is
top?
amazing. Nah, that wins. That hands down. Go on. Speak to
Like,
me about Emil. Speak to me.
well, Ronaldo R9 said that he was, and Ronaldinho had said that he could play for Brazil, and every player that's played alongside this guy Emil Heskey has said that he made them better. So because he used to do all of their dirty work, basically. Um, but yeah, obviously came through at Leicester, got a big move to Liverpool, and then has had spells at the likes of Wigan. I think he had a spell at Birmingham, Aston
Yeah.
Villa, as well, and had been around the block, so to speak. But yeah, I just felt like this guy needed to be in a Barclaysman team, because when I think of Barclaysman strikers, he's right up there, and
Yeah.
I think very underrated in the sense of he could do a lot more than just be the focal point, the target man. I know that was more his game, and that was the way he was deployed, but I think there was a little bit more to him than that. And I think that's why he gets his props from former teammates, because he could do loads and loads of other bits and pieces as well. So Emil rounds off my front three quite nicely, with Morton Gamps, Pedersen playing on the right, Nico Crancho on the left, and Emil Heskey up front. I genuinely don't know who's won
I
that
think
battle
that
there.
that is a very good battle between both of our sides. I think that's really good, and I think Emil Heskey is a great way to kind of round off what we've been doing on the show
Yeah,
today. Quick
this is
question,
what.
Wes.
Go on.
Quick question. What other names were hard to leave out, or what other names would you not put in your squad, but for anybody that is unfamiliar again with like the Barclaysman and the trend, like what other names would you
Okay.
throw out there that's like a prime Barclaysman? We'll go back and
So
forth.
Brad Friedel and Shay Given, I think, were two in net,
Yeah,
definitely.
great shout.
If I go more attacking wise, there's Adele
Yeah.
Tarat, but I feel like Adele's best work was in the Championship, which is why I left him out.
Mm,
Because I think when he made that step up into the Prem with QPR, in particular, it didn't work. It didn't work for him, and I think obviously I know when QPR got promoted, there was a big changeover with the ownership, and he kind of got shoved to the side. I know Adele was a young player at Tottenham and was just taking liberties in training and just wanted to nutmeg people like on the edge of the box, his own box. And obviously, there's that famous clip where he's nutmegged
yeah.
somebody, just outside our penalty box against Derby. So Adele was in the thought process, but I thought actually when I deeped it, I went, no, his best work for me was that season in the Championship, and I think for me, he's the best player that's been in the Championship, like hands
Yeah.
down. I've never seen anybody do what he could do. A potential rogue shout is Wilfred Zaha as
Yeah.
well, um, because I mean, but then I think with Wilf, there's always a question mark over could he do it in big games and against big opposition, and I don't feel like he did that enough for
Yeah.
me. But as a footballer, mate, name a skill, he can do it. Just pure flair. So yeah, there was a few. But I think in terms of goalkeepers in particular, that was arguably my hardest one because I had UC, Brad Friedel, Shay Given as a three as a goalkeeping unit, which isn't a bad set of goalkeepers, by the way.
That's not bad. Like you got Mark Schwartz as well in goal. Like that's
Yes,
a classic one as well. I'm trying to think like up top, one came to mind, especially when you showed me Suleiman Tari. The one that
yes,
came to mind was Yakubu.
yes,
Yakubu came in my head, considering that he's played for Everton and had Portsmouth years. He was someone that could have been thrown in there. In terms of midfield, I mentioned Lee Catamol earlier, and I think Lee
hmm
Catamol for me is like a stalwart kind of prime Barclaysman. Um, there's a lot that we could have mentioned. There's absolutely a lot and handful of players that we could have mentioned. Like it's considering the amount of years that I think that's the one thing I've missed about the Premier League is that sponsorship with the Barclays. It just had something to it that
yeah,
made you realize that this is like, as Martin Tyler said, and it's live. Like it just felt unique. So there's a lot of names that we could have put in there, like Benny McCarthy.
yeah,
Like he was
yeah.
somebody like Roque Santa Cruz. Um, there's a lot.
I'm
I
I'm
was
gonna
thinking of
I'm gonna
Roman
throw out.
Pavlyuchenko. Pavlyuchenko was
Oh, Pav!
Pav was the guy
Oh,
I was gonna consider putting Pav in because Pav for me, I loved Pav. Right foot, left foot, like he just had a range of finishes. For me, at the time he was at the club, probably apart from JD, was probably the second best finisher at the club. Like for me,
yeah.
I love Pav.
Yeah, Pav never scored tap-ins, to be fair
No,
to him. His goal catalogue is probably up there with Giroud's.
yeah.
So I was going to chuck another name out, Nelson, and I know you are going to absolutely love this player, Elano from Man City.
I had Stephen Island on my list as well, and Alano. I cross. Oh, I'm so gutted. I should have kept Alano. I had
But
him in
we,
my
we
squad.
also could have had the likes of Richard Dunn, James Collins, and
Yeah,
that Stephen Warnock potentially in there,
yeah,
John Carew, Gabby Agbonlahor, Ashley Young,
yeah.
Stephen Stuart Downing. Oh, here's a shout. Here's a shout. What? I'm surprised none of us have gone for this guy,
Benjani.
Ben Jarney. But listen, I'm really happy with Emil Heskey. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's a great shout. I think that is pure Barclays.
We've missed out on through like Wilfred Bonny. Like I'm just there. Like no, this is a very good episode, and I'm very happy that we've done this. And I hope a lot of people can come up with their squads as well, and give us shouts of names that we may have missed out on that they would have put in their squad. So I think who would win, mine or Wes's team? That's the question.
We need to let people know. We need to get people in the comments saying. And I also think this is where Holly should have come into play because she could have
That's true.
effectively refereed and let us, know who's won. But Nelson, we're going to move on from the Barclaysman section because something big and wonderful happened at the weekend where the Lionesses brought football home again. Talk to me about the Women's Euros, the Lionesses, the final, and Serena Wiegman vibing to Burner Boy of all people at the parade the other day.
Oh my gosh, what a great advert for women's football. And especially here in England, I think the momentum needs to continue from what's happened, when we last won the Euros in 2022 and after the Women's World Cup and also after the Olympics as well. Like we just need to keep that momentum going. I think Righty said it best because I think there were a lot of pressure, not even a lot of pressure, but after they had won the Euros in 20, we had the big boom of young girls playing, and just like the infrastructure and the investment in women's football was huge. So for me, I think now we just got to let them play and be free because they've proven themselves not once but twice. They've proven themselves twice, and
Twice,
twice is not easy, and especially because it was on foreign soil again, setting records and breaking history. First English team. Okay, we're not saying men or women's first English team to win a major tournament on foreign soil. Leah Williamson being the first England captain to win, like with back. It's just fantastic, and these girls just keep breaking records, and my heart is so full for them. I think the parade is a testament to their efforts and what they've done to obviously promote the game, but they just go out there and have fun. They enjoy themselves, and I think they love the roller coaster ride. I think they enjoyed, especially from the quarterfinal onwards, they probably enjoyed every aspect of the knockout stages, getting to the final and winning it the way that they did. We could talk about, standout players. Michelle Adjiman, at 19, no one knew her name before the start of the tournament, but now she is the young player of the tournament and a future superstar. Me and your favorite player, CK, our winger, Chloe Kelly. Like, don't get me
Wait, wait,
started.
wait, wait,
Chloe
wait,
Kelly.
wait. No. Say it properly. It's Chloe Clutch
Clutch.
Kelly.
Chloe Clutch Kelly. Let me not even get started with her. I could have a whole episode about Chloe Kelly, so we can wait for that in the future. But fantastic performance from our lionesses. Serena, in Serena we trust. I know she has had some criticism as a result of some of her decisions that she's made, from the likes of starting LJ at the final. But playing Jess Carter as well. But I think Jess Carter had her standout game in that final. If there was one game that she needed to do it, it was that game. And I think Serena is the best international manager in the game. There's no one can tell me otherwise. Like, you have to go back to 2013 for when somebody else not called Serena Wiegmann won the Euros. Like, that is crazy. So I'm very proud of them. And like you said, for her to come out of her shell, not even come out of her shell, for her favorite artist to come out and Burna Boy and perform at the parades. I think a lot of people was like, you had a lot of questions like, oh, this is great. We love her reaction. You may have had questions like, who's Burna Boy? Like, this like flew about. But I think it's great for people to see that, to see the lionesses outside of the game, just how they're all wonderful human beings. And I think they're going to go a long way. And they're going to be remembered as, in my opinion, probably the greatest English team of all time in terms of international. Because if we had to like rank, the great English sides that we've had, in a national team, for me, they have to be up there. They have to be up there. So this is great, Wes. I love it. I'm so happy. Obviously, I'm already thinking about Brazil. I want to buy tickets. I want to go out and see them perform at the World Cup in Brazil in 27. Still gonna have to wait and see. But look, just like you, man, I know you're happy about it. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Like, I know you've already spoken about it already, about like how it's moved the game forward and how much
Mhm.
they've done for them. But what do we look forward to now for the Lionesses? What is it now for the future?
I mean, for me, I think I said this on Sunday on the Park Lane pod. Like, girls' football and women's football in this country is probably in the best place it's ever been, and the challenge now is to get the structural pyramid right and get it set. If we don't take this opportunity to do it now, we never will. Like you said, back-to-back champions of Europe. Like, what more justification do the people at the top need to get the house in order and get it properly sorted, properly funded? I think when I look back at 22, that was for the feelings that I got that day, because I was at the final at Wembley, as you know, Nels, and the feelings I
Mm,
got were for those female players that had been before
yeah,
and kind of, I wouldn't say failed, but not achieved what these girls have achieved. And there was some top players that haven't achieved anything near what this set of girls have done. And I look at this one now and I go, this is for the players that I look at and that I have contact with in terms of coaching, or that I have coached. So I think like the first one was for those that had been before. I think this one is more for the here and now, in the sense of, like, this is your standard now, girls. You've got your heroes and your icons that you can easily access. They are available, like, in terms of being on telly every week, etc. So I think that it's in a great place. And actually, when I look at the standard of girl player coming through, it's absolutely ridiculous, like what they can do, in terms of ability, what the information that they want. They want a lot more, I think, than boys. I think they want it more than boys. And like I said, I just think we're in a really, really healthy place. And I, for one, am very much looking forward to seeing what that future looks like. But my call to action is on those at the top to get your pyramid sorted. Like, the top two leagues should at least be professional by now.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Like, why have we got some teams in the second tier that aren't professional yet? Like, what's it got to take for those owners at the top to invest in their women's teams? Because if they don't invest, I think now the girls will look at it and go, well, if you guys don't invest, I know somewhere that will, and I'll go there instead. And I know there's a lot of catching up to do, and I get that, I appreciate that, but now is the time for football clubs up and down the country. Invest in your women's team, because if you do that, you will see the benefits. You
Yeah.
will 100% see the benefits, whether that is having a player in a title winning team or not. You can still produce some fantastic footballers. Like,
Mm.
look at Bethany England, right? Didn't even make the squads, but captain of Tottenham Hotspur women's team, and has been an England regular for time. Didn't make the squad, so now we're starting to get that strength in depth. I feel like the England team is in a good place. I have some questions for Serena, which sounds really strange because she's just brought football home again. But for me, I didn't feel like there was a plan in terms of the substitutions. Like the one in 22, you knew Ellen White's coming off, Fran Kirby's coming off, Tooney and Russo are coming on. They're going to change the game. It felt like with this one, it's I'm going to chuck this one on, I'm going to chuck that one on, and let's see what happens. That was the vibe I got.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the squad does need a refresh going into Brazil
Absolutely.
2027,
Yeah.
and it will be interesting to see how it develops. And this will almost be what Serena Wiegman 3.0,
Yeah.
if you like. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that in particular. Anyway, Nelson, enough of the Lionesses chat, because it's time to talk transfers very quickly.
Yeah.
Because finally, Arsenal have bought a striker, and they've got them their what you would probably class as their primary and their number one target in Victor Gyökeres. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I think the vibe and ambiance around the club is probably feeling really positive with the amount of signings that we've made. I think we've made signings that we've had a lot of questions asked about, why Arsenal can't do this or do this or do that. But I think we've tackled a lot of areas, and Victor Gyökeres, I think, is just going to uplift the mood in the club. I think the players are happy. Mikel's happy. Whether or not how he starts or uses Gyökeres is all down to him. I just think from an Arsenal perspective, when you look at City are the example. They are the ones who set the example in terms of having strength in depth. I think that's what Arsenal have gone for now this season. And I want to make a hot take. I think the top four is already set this season based on the funds that have been spent this summer. Because for me, I think we've not seen anything like this in a while in terms of a Premier League transfer window where the teams that have finished in the top four have actually gone out and bought to strengthen. Chelsea, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, they've all done it. And for me, that could mean that we could go, I won't say go back to, but that, again, we talked about prime Barclaysman era, but in the prime Barclays, you had a certified top four. And I feel like we're going to go back to that for a couple of seasons. I hope that the Premier League proves me wrong, because it is the best league in the world in terms of competitiveness. So I really hope they prove me wrong. But I'm just putting a hot take out there, because all top four clubs from last season have spent the money, and they've spent huge amounts of money. And whether or not that's going to create a gap between the top four and everyone else, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it will. And it's going to prove to be a fantastic season, but there's a lot. I'm very happy from an Arsenal perspective for Gyökeres, but it's just nice to see other clubs. I think the rest of the Premier League has been busy as well. Like, it's just been announced today that Granit Xhaka has gone back to Sunderland. Like, that was a move that I was not expecting. I think Xhaka saw Eric Ten Hag come through. Was like, nope, I'm out. Considering his time at United, so there's a lot of good moves happening in and around the Premier League. I think, especially, I think it's just looking at the newly promoted clubs. Again, we like to talk about the newly promoted clubs. It's very important that they have a good transfer window to, obviously, if they're looking to stay up, because I think the three from last year all went straight back down. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I hope we're going to have a lot more transfers happen. But what about you? What are your thoughts on your side's transfer activity? Is there still more left to sign for? And like, how does it feel that a certain Gibbs White, isn't coming to the club anymore? Like for me, I would be gutted at that, because you're looking at a top quality player in Morgan who could change the dynamic of that midfield. And I don't think the club have been ruthless. I think that's the word I'm looking for, ruthless in going for him and getting him. So what are your thoughts on Tottenham's transfer window? Is there any hope left to still get players? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I can talk about our lack of business because that's great. Because we're now coming into August in a couple of days. We've signed one senior player in Mohamed Kudus, who has looked good in pre-season. It's a bit difficult though for me to judge him because it's not his fault. We've played 3 League One sides, and well, he's only played against 2 of them really. But yeah, I like what I see with him. In terms of Gibbs White, a little bit gutted with that one because I thought the deal would still get done, but I guess when you get a gun pointed to your head and said sign this contract, and your missus is in some Greek butcher somewhere and the geezer's holding a meat clover over it, it's a bit difficult. And then you're forced to stand there with the owner next to you and have to call him Mr. Marinakis. It was just one of those where I can't for the life of me understand Forest's issue, because we triggered a release clause. How we found out about that release clause, I don't know, but it's in a legally binding document. So, Marinakis can't say that nobody knew about it because it's in his contract. His contract's a legally binding document. So, yeah, that one's a bit baffling for me. I feel like we've missed a trick. I was at the Luton game at the weekend. We were crying out for Morgan Gibbs White, somebody who can receive the ball on the half turn in tight areas, somebody who can drive with the ball from midfield, somebody who can make runs deep from midfield. That's Morgan Gibbs White in a nutshell. And I feel like we have missed the boat and missed a trick with that one. Having said that, I liked him from when he was breaking into the team at Wolves as a 17-year-old. So, there's some credit, I think, there in the sense of could we have got him a lot earlier than when we were going for him. But there's still a lot of work, I think, for Spurs to do, because if we were in the market for Gibbs White, that means we're in the market for that type of player. So we need to go and get one. And the thing is, we flirted with Eze for long enough, and that's not happened. And I don't think that will happen now. Despite the fact that it's probably the time to get him, I don't think it's going to happen. Xavi Simons was also on radar, but it looks like he's off to Chelsea, like everybody else, because they're signing whoever they want at the minute. The number 6 for me is still a priority position.
Yeah.
A player who I've liked the look of for a couple of seasons now is Hayden Hackney, but it looks like he's off to Ipswich for around 20 million plus. So that's not great. That's not ideal. And I can't see us going all out for my guy Adam Wharton, especially now, which is a big shame. Still think we need a left-sided player, somebody who can maybe cover left centre back and left back. Again, my pick was Joral Hato, but he's going to Chelsea again, like everyone else. So then my other choice was Piero Incampe from Leverkusen, but I don't think Leverkusen are going to really sell now after they've just lost Xhaka, Wirtz, and I think they've also lost Frimpong as well this window. Yeah. So, yeah, I think they're now looking to probably keep hold of what they've got. So, listen, there's a lot to do, I think, at Spurs. There's a lot of outs, I think, as well, a lot of deadwood in the sense of, like Brian Hill, maybe Malas Solomon. Yves Bissouma's rumoured to be away as well. So, yeah, I think there's a few out that we need to shift. But listen, time's ticking, so we need to crack on with it, basically. So, yeah, that's kind of where I feel like we're at in terms of transfers with Spurs at the minute.
No, I hear that. That's good coverage, man. It's good coverage. I am hoping I just feel like you guys are, considering that you've won the Europa League, for me, like you said, like a call to action that you made for women's football, I think it's a call to action to the club to know that you guys want to compete, and you should go out there to try and buy the best players. So Morgan Rogers was someone that pointed out in my head, whether or not you guys would maybe go for him. I think he'd be a fantastic addition to your side, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, I think with Rodgers, the issue would be the transfer fee, because I think Villa are looking easily upwards of 60 mil. and I don't think we'd pay it.
Yeah.
Jacob Ramsey could be a good one, but again, I think Villa are looking at least 50.
Wow.
So again, it's just the outlay that we're gonna shell out, and I don't think Tottenham want to do it because every time we've spent really big, it's never worked at Tottenham. Looking at the likes of Ndombele in particular, £63 million didn't work out at all. Whereas if you look at some of the signings that have been at a relatively cheaper price, they're the ones that have seemed to have worked. Obviously, Dele Alli 5 mil, Christian Eriksen 11 mil over the years. Bergville 8.5 million looks like an absolute bargain, absolute steal. So I think it's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde type situation with Spurs. But the big issue with Spurs isn't always sometimes the transfer fee; it's the wages. And I think that is where it gets a bit sticky because the top players want the top money and Tottenham aren't prepared to pay the top money like the other clubs.
No, we're gonna have to wait and see. I think it's gonna be a very good finish to the transfer window. I think a lot of Premier League teams have been active. But Wes, I think that concludes today's show, doesn't it? We've covered a lot
It
today, and
does.
I really hope that a lot of people have um, got into grips with the Barclays men, and hopefully they can put in, the players that we've missed out, or maybe choose between our teams which one is better. I still am gonna root for mine. But no, I think it's been a good episode.
No, absolutely. And you've teed it up nicely there, Nelson, in terms of a finish. But before we leave, where can everybody find you doing your thing?
You guys can find me on Instagram at natumba25. So that's N, my last name there. You can see on the screen, Natumba, and 25 at the end on Instagram.
Perfect. And people, you can find me on Twitter at Wezo10, the unofficial Moose Dembele fan account, as everybody knows. Likely to be an unofficial Kevin Danso fan account before this year is out because my guy Kev has signed on a permanent now from Lons. And Instagram for me is at Wezo32. Like I say, I was at the Luton game at the weekend, bumped into a few people that I know as well, which was quite nice. And likely to be at majority of Spurs home games this season as well. And for anything football coaching related, as always, feel free to give Kofoot or Kickoff Football Academy a follow, a like, a subscribe, whatever, across all your social channels. But that is it from us. And until next time, a massive come on you Spurs.